Welcome to In the Spotlight. I'm Clay Loney, the inaugural edition of In the Spotlight. This is a different way for me to come across to you and to communicate with you. For so many years, I've come through the TV channel there in Tulsa. Now I have my own. This is going to give me a little more time to dig into the issues, to explore some companies in our area, the extraordinary things they're doing in manufacturing, the products you never hear about that you really need to. We're going to dig into things that really matter, the people in our lives and in our community that are working to make our world just a little bit better for all of us. I think they're stories that need to be told. They're positive stories. They're important stories to our lives. Joining me for this very first edition is none other than Dr. Mark Sherwood. He is running for governor in the state of Oklahoma. You're running against Doctor. He would like to say doctor. You're the doctor. You're running against Kevin Stitt. You're taking on a big challenge there, and we're going to get into all the reasons why you're doing that. But explain why we're doing this now. We kind of rush this together because, hey, this is Christmas week. This is an important week for my family, your family, and all those who are watching. Why are we doing it now, Mark?
Well, Clay, first of all, I appreciate being with you. I honor you. We had known each other in the past off and on, and so thank you for having me on in the inaugural edition of In the Spotlight. I feel so blessed and humbled and honored to be included. Here we are at Christmas time, greatest time that we should be celebrating the birth of Christ and all the good things, all the blessings. And unfortunately, there's a lot of distractions going on in the world right now with Omicron and other issues of distrust with our government. So I think now is a good time to bring it back home, if you will, to the real issues, the real important parts. And I think it's going to be encouraging to people. And
we will definitely do that. You wanted to share some Christmas memories first, though, to kind of set the stage.
Yeah, I was thinking back in preparation for our time today, some treasured memories I had. And I remember, as a kid growing up, my mom and dad, were still trying to convince me that Santa was real. And I remember coming out one morning early. I think I'd woke up to go to the bathroom or something, and I saw my mom frantically wrapping presents, and my mind was blown. No Santa. My mom and dad were Santa, the whole bit. But we had a lot of traditions as a family to wake up on. We opened presents on Christmas Eve, and then we spent the day together, just time-wise. And part of my biggest memories of Christmas, Clay, was not the gifts that I got. Frankly, I don't remember very many of those, but it was the times we spent. My mom, she's gone now, and I think back at those memories of her telling me how much she loved me and us reading the Christmas story and talking about what we were grateful for and those blessings. And so I've come to realize over the course of time, this time of year, that truly time is the most valuable thing we have. And that's what people remember. So, in everything I've done, based upon that philosophy, with time being the most important, everyone I'm dealing with, like right now, I'm dealing with you, you're the most important part of my life right now. And we have to make that part of our journeys, I believe, going forward, instead of just having these passing obligations and passing dinners and passing get-togethers and passing gifts. Time is so valuable. And the more you live on the earth and the more you go through holidays, you realize how valuable it is.
Yeah, isn't it something listening to you, and I would echo those same feelings that time is absolutely invaluable. Now I'm sounding like my dad used to sound, or my grandparents. Aren't we a little bit? It's like, you'll know one day, you'll look back and it goes by in a heartbeat. Enjoy what you have now. Celebrate what you have now. Even in the hard times, we can immerse ourselves and live in that moment, so we're truly present for those around us, right?
Yeah, and we actually, sort of changed traditions about 5 years ago. This is great. My wife and I, we were talking one day, and we're very this black and white honest with each other, which is the way it should be. But we were talking one day in preparation for the holidays. This has been probably 6 years ago now. And I said, do you really enjoy going to place to place, people to people, party to party? And she goes, no, I really don't. She goes, it creates a lot of stress. Because we just trade cards, we switch gift cards, it's this stuff. And we talked and we said, let's do something different this Christmas. Let's go on a trip. Let's go on a vacation, and let's invite anybody in our family that want to go. Tell them where we're going to be, and we just meet there. So you can have the sort of the time with yourself, the time with family. You just kind of have that peace to do kind of what you want.
Yeah.
And we went to Mexico that first year. It was crazy.
So
and
we're
we
in
thought
Mexico.
that it was going to be weird. We thought it was going to be strange, and it probably was for a few days. But when we got there, everybody was amazed at how fun it was, how peaceful it was, and how no stress affected everybody. It was great. So they ever since then, we've changed our traditions, and now we go on a vacation, and people meet us there.
So where are you? Where are you going this year?
We are going back to Mexico.
What, Cabo? Where are you going?
We're going to Cancun. And we have, honestly, there's places you can go in Cancun. You can get your, all inclusive or not. Truthfully, we just wanted to go the all inclusive because I didn't want to think about anything of the holidays. I just wanted to kind of go to a place, and the people there are so kind and hospitable, and we are going to tip them well because they take so good care of you, and the service is so amazing. So it just takes the load off. So we're really looking forward to it this year, as always. And every year it seems to get better. Like we're so look forward to it. We always book it before we leave the next time so we can look forward to it.
Yeah. And as a doctor, a naturopathic doctor, I've followed you somewhat on that. And you have the 7 pillars of health that you talk about. One of those, I think it's pretty much up top, is, try to de-stress. Boy, so the way to de-stress is to run for governor, right?
Yeah, right. Exactly. Honestly, in that, I just saw a need that wasn't being met. I saw people hurting, and this year, it's horrible. I've watched people lose their jobs and being threatened with job loss. I've had people that we knew of that had family members that have died because they couldn't get the treatment they need. And this is not the time of year we should be focusing on that. I thought, why are we doing this? And so, with my experience and my history, background, I've been on this planet a few decades now. Clearly, God had called me for such a time as this and equipped me for such a season as this to do this very thing. And so, I think stress, but also when I submitted to the call and just was obedient, honestly, Clay, the stress came off more than it was on at that point, because when you fight something that you should be doing, that's a little more challenging than finally saying, all right, I got it. I'm going to do this, Lord, and you're going to equip me to do what I'm supposed to do for your glory.
And I want to jump into, what you're planning to do as governor, how you plan to stand out against another Republican governor, how you want to get your voice heard, as we're doing right now. But first, for those who don't really know who you're about, and they say, what do you mean he's a doctor? Give us a thumbnail. Tell us about what you do.
So my wife, Dr. Michelle Neal Sherwood now, and we have the Functional Medical Institute right here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Kind of a crazy, cool story. With that, we have been rolling around here for about 8 years now together, and the clinic, and it's grown to where we are able to help people literally worldwide. And we kind of got known in a nutshell for treating 9,500 plus and counting people that had been exposed to and or infected with COVID. And to date, we've had 0 deaths, 0. And so that's kind of how we got known. But really our treatment protocols is to eliminate all of these comorbid conditions that we have, such as obesity. We work very hard to reverse and slow down the biological aging process. And certainly we don't want people to be on medications. And so that's one of our premises here. We do a lot of deprescription and get people really rolling. Now, we're not anti-medicine, but we are anti-dependence upon unnecessary medication. And that therein lies a huge problem with our world. So we set our bar very high, and we do this stuff ourselves. And when people come into our facilities, they're going to feel loved. They're going to feel cared for. They're going to feel heard, and with 100% certainty if they follow the protocols, because they're really, God's principles. and they get better every single time. And it's been an amazing journey. Who would have known that right in Tulsa, Oklahoma, we had a place like this that people looked at as the benchmark on what everybody's trying to achieve with this idea of true healthcare.
Yeah, boy, there's so much I want to unwrap there. First, though, you just you announced that you were running for governor just a few months ago. It was back in September. Yes. What has it been like for you, your life, your family's life since then?
You know, it's changed a little bit. In my previous career in law enforcement, everybody would understand this protection and service mentality, right? And so then I sort of increased and wrote the next chapter, which was still protection and service, larger, broader spectrum, of course, protecting people from themselves and serving a broader population. And now it's really getting to another chapter of protection and service. And it's been interesting. You never know what to expect. How are people going to receive your message? You just never know. As I stated, you're following what you believe to be the call of God on your life to step in and just be obedient. You already win when you're obedient, as I believe. But it's been extraordinary. I've learned two things that are key. I've learned when I get in front of people and I listen to them, we communicate the message that has been put on our heart. There is instant buy-in, encouragement, and hope that is built in restoring integrity, character, and frankly, backbone and spine into government to really protect people, serve them, and honor them. So that's been one on a good thing. The other side is I didn't realize how embedded the establishment was, and how that even though the principles with which I stand, and I know we'll talk about in time, they're agreed upon by the current Republican Party, they're not done by the current Republican Party, nor do they want to do them. The establishment is embedded so deep that honesty, integrity, character, and what I just talked about, I don't sense they want that. And the embedded depth of that establishment is continuing to hurt people, not just in Oklahoma, but people across the United States of America, because government is not trusted anymore at all. I think most people would agree with that in Oklahoma. And it's just astounding to me on how that these people that are embedded in this establishment, Clay, they don't want you to ask them any questions. Just a simple point to prove my point. When the Republican Party says we are all about abolition of abortion, and if the establishment says we're pro-life, my question is, why are we still having abortions? Fair question, when we could have stopped it yesterday, but we continue to allow it. 1A to that point, when the establishment says we're anti-mandates for vaccines, then why do we still have mandates for vaccines? This is typical politics. And I just didn't know how embedded and deep that was. And so that's been shocking. But that has, I would say, brightened and sort of made the fire burn brighter in me to go forward with even in greater passion, knowing I'm doing the right thing.
So much to discuss there. And as I shared with you just recently, I lost my brother to COVID-19. The doctors, now he was already dealing with diabetes, but he was handling that. He had a full life, and he has 3 children, 3 boys, a wife, a loving wife, and he was doing fine until COVID hit, and really 2 rounds of treating that. First round seemed to work, and they sent him home, and about a week later, he turned worse, went back in, and they couldn't save him. And as is the case with all of those who have had family members or loved ones who have been hit by COVID-19, you can't go in the hospital with them. You can't be there with them to hold their hand. You can't be with them to tell them that you love them in person, right? And it hurt me to the core, and it changed me. It really did change me. In that moment, I thought, never again. If I have the chance to be with those that I love and they're going through difficult times or not, then I need to be there. And often that takes a sacrifice. And so I ended up leaving a long career in large part so that I could be closer in proximity to my parents, to my older sister who's fighting cancer, to my younger sister who's healthy, but that we support our family together. And I want to be with all of them while I can, because I can't, I couldn't be there with my brother. And I always thought, and it comes full circle to what we were talking about at the beginning, Mark, is that, today's the day, right?
Yeah.
Today is the day. And you always think, I'll have tomorrow, I'll have next month, I'll have next spring, I'll get together with Ray, my brother. And I don't have that, right? And so many people here at Christmas time can have a similar story, sadly. So many thousands have a similar story and say, here we are at the table celebrating this time of the year, and there's a chair that's empty, or we have a picture instead of that loved one to talk with. And we will celebrate Ray. He's still with us always, in heart and soul, but it bothers me. It bothers me not to have my brother there. It bothers me not to have him there, because he's my big brother, and he always was that person for me. Where was I going with that? I guess, to bring it to what you were saying, it would hurt me to think that he could have been saved. I don't know that. I do. Here it is, Mark. So you're asking people to trust you and to trust your wife. And people want to. They want to trust the healthcare givers. I know a number of other doctors who are loving, caring, very intelligent people who said, this is the best science we have. We are going to try to save him. And what were we supposed to do? Not trust them?
Well, I'm sorry for your brother's loss. There's no words that can make it better. I know we know that. My perspective, my wife's perspective, our perspective on this issue is, I honestly do, with all of my heart, believe people in our world are unnecessarily dying too early because of a lack of continuity, a lack of truth, a lack of true health care and health education given. To that end, I look at the disease process called type 2 diabetes. And what I'm getting ready to say probably will infuriate a lot of people. But America, we created that. It's called the standard American diet. We did that. It should not exist. Period. End of story. Too many people have succumbed to a virus when they've had a comorbidity of type 2 diabetes that can be completely eradicated and reversed. And I get passionate about this, Clay, because I've watched and I hear stories like yours, and it rips my heart out. And I know in God's providence, He knows what we're going to do, and He knows when we're going to go. But frankly, I've watched a lot of people that I know over the course of years told by people wearing white coats that we're going to manage your diabetes and here's your medication. And that is not something I agree with. We need to work to eradicate that horrific condition that doesn't have to exist and become a perpetual money-making garbage dump situation called the American Diabetes Association. And when I look at that, type 2 diabetes represents 98% of all diabetic cases. America needs to wake up. The government subsidizes foods that create disease. Disease then yields the need for medication, bringing us right back to the Food and Drug Administration, which in my mind is a match made right square in hell, because it doesn't work that way. God put medicine in food. And again, to be clear, I'm not anti-medication. But when I look at the process of disease, We don't need to have only in our toolbox this idea of management. We need to have a belief system and a toolbox that has the concept of healing and or reversal.
So for the families at home listening to this and saying, well, my uncle, my brother, my husband, my sister is fighting this right now, fighting COVID-19. Maybe it's the Omicron, maybe it's Delta, maybe we don't know.
Yeah.
And they're fighting this, and they're trusting their doctors, and they have every reason to, because those doctors have been very good to their family for many years, and they have a trust built up, right?
Yeah.
And they're hearing this and going, what do I do? What do I do? What do they do?
Well, there's several answers that can be given. But I can tell you this, when you're looking at a human being, it's not a one-size-fits-all approach. When they go to the hospital, they're going to get midazolam, remdesivir, and then a ventilator. That's kind of how that process goes. But I can tell you there's other tools out there that may work just as well and may save some lives. So I would tell them to seek out doctors who are willing to go outside of their own box that they are told to do by non-physicians because of monetary driven protocols. And they need to seek out those doctors because they're out there. The media is not going to cover them because that goes against the narrative, doesn't it? You and I both know that. The media is broadcasting fear. Why aren't they having more in the spotlights in local media, giving hope and encouragement, another side of the story, at least giving people the opportunity to have the real true concept of informed consent alive? But I say to those people, have some hope, seek out physicians that you can find now, praise the Lord, that will have the full gamut of alternatives in which you can choose, and then seek the guidance and make your decision based upon the totality of the information and not a limited thing. Because right now we're stuck. There's two camps. One is the what I would call conventional medicine, and one is alternative. You know, it's the same thing. Physicians are healers. Why shouldn't a physician be able to use whatever needs to, that he wants to, or she wants to, or feels in their heart to get people well and better? But right now, they're blessed their souls. Their hands are tied. I've talked to many physicians that are miserable because they can't do what they know they need to do. And that's the relationship I have with many. And it's heartbreaking because these are some of the most brilliant people in the history of our world.
You've made it clear, you've said at least twice on this program that you're not anti-medicine, which tells me you're not anti-science.
Nope.
You're believing in a mix of science and other, right? So it's just how to find that balance, Mark. How do you find the balance?
Well, I think and this is how I believe, and people can like it or not and accept it or not, but I believe God made us as human beings in his own image. If we believe that, friends, and I ask you to consider this concept, if we believe that, then we also must believe that every system inside of us was made in the image of God, including our immune system. So first and foremost, find a physician that can at least accept that God made us and his ways, thoughts, ideas are higher than ours. He invented science. So God and science are not two different things. They are the same. When we say trust the science and not acknowledge God as the author of the science, we're trusting man's science absent God. And when we do that, we'll always find ourselves falling short. Case in point, the government subsidized foods are genetically modified. Mankind got involved in our food supply. The results have been disastrous, with America leading the way in expenditures for this fictitious thing called healthcare, with the results being near the bottom in results compared to all the industrialized nations. Our system has been a failure. And those are statistics right off of the CDC. We're growing diseases faster than we're growing people. Now, if I look at the CDC, and I hope people don't take this wrong, I don't see it as the centers of disease prevention and control. I see it as the centers of disease out of control and lack of prevention, because it's clearly shown it's failed for 50 years. We need to begin to open our eyes, see a different side of the chapter, a different side of the book, a different chapter in the book, and understand that there's more to it than we've been told. Learn to unlearn, folks, and then be willing to learn.
But I think what people believe, what they've grown up around, whether it's their political belief, their religious belief, it's hard. It's hard to change where you stand in your heart and soul if you're saying, that's what I believe, I'm holding on to it until I die. How do you change those ingrained beliefs in people if you feel, as a candidate for governor, if you feel that it's taking our state and our communities in the wrong direction?
I think there's two things that's got to happen. Number one, you got to have a leader that's going to do it, that's going to be committed to principles that we all generally agree around. And I travel around the state and talk to a lot of people, and what I just shared with you is a generally agreed upon principle of the people that I've talked to. So I think you got to have a leader that does it, first of all, and it doesn't set the bar so low that it's like easy to meet. The leader should set the bar of excellence so high that we have to have God's help to get us there. And the second thing I think people would want to consider doing is just stop for a moment and think for oneself. Think for yourself, folks. Do you really believe the health of America has got better or worse? Has our obesity rates got better or worse? Has the quality of our food got better or worse? Has medication usage got better or worse, more or less? These questions are paramount for thinking for yourself. When we think for ourselves, once again, people have a mind and a brain and a way to do things that's so amazing. And there's some smart people, and I suspect that it's a lack of information that is hurting people. And as the Bible says in Hosea 4:6, as I recall, my people perish for lack of knowledge. And even moreover, people are perishing because they're told that they can't think for themselves. And when you think for yourself, you're going to make a pretty good decision. We just got to learn to be reasonable, be open, and not just open our ears, but open our hearts and minds and eyes to see things differently.
So in this Christmas season, as families are listening to you and they're saying, who would I vote for governor? How do I want to see my community? How do we deal with this terrible disease that's taken so many lives? What's the proper response? What would you say to those who are watching to encourage them in real ways? I mean, in more than just rhetoric and more than just words. What can you tell them?
Folks, we don't need to live in fear. We need to live in hope and peace. Fear will crush the soul of a human being and will also crush the immune system. What I would do as your next governor, and what I will do as your next governor, is first of all, there won't be mandates that say you have to have a vaccine to work, seek education, or seek medical care. We're going to bring freedom back. We're going to bring education back in regard to how to treat this physical body with great care and respect and honor. My wife and I will lead the way to teach you how to live a healthy life. We'll give you educational tools and material across the state. We'll put it in schools. We'll put it in restaurants. We'll put it in supermarkets where you can get it, you can see it. What should I be eating? What shouldn't I be eating? I could even see Doctors Mark and Michelle approved section in stores and restaurants. And we can see the health of Oklahoma improve. And we can begin to see these disease processes like type 2 diabetes go away. And we're going to open up areas in the state where physicians can come in and operate with the full spectrum of their knowledge and education to treat people in a way that's going to get them well and give them hope. Not a fear-based 5 and 10-minute visit in and out. Here's your medication. But a true relationship between the physician and the patient that's based upon trust, common sense, discussion, and this comprehensive planning about the care of the individual. So healthcare doesn't need to be for profit. It needs to be for healing and for the person. And those are just a few of the things, obviously, with this COVID. I want to see, for example, monoclonal antibody be available for the state of Oklahoma. I want to see some of the medications that have been so banned be more available to the citizens of Oklahoma if they choose to go that route. We need to give them the opportunity to have a chance at life. Clay, too many lives have been lost already. Too many. And every day that goes by with the bureaucracy, the political gamesmanship, the lack of action, and the lack of change, somebody's dying. Somebody's dying. Somebody else's brother's dying. Man, I'll do anything I can. I'm going to do everything I can. And so is my wife, to invest in that with our lives, because I want people to have hope and have a full life, a quality of life that's not deterred and distracted with all the stuff we're dealing with. We're dealing with more grief right now, and it should be the most joyous time of year. We can do better than that, Oklahoma. Frankly, America, we can do better than that. And the time to start is right now.
And this discussion will continue with Dr. Mark Sherwood, running for governor of Oklahoma against incumbent Republican governor. This is his Christmas message. We will come back next week and hear from him again as he looks toward 2022, what he sees in the year to come, an important election year, how he approaches that with a great deal of frustration, but also hope. We will hear lots of voices on this program. I thank you for joining me for this inaugural edition of In the Spotlight. Until the next time, take care. I'm Clay Loney.